Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel could be a name to watch for the Browns head coaching position if both become available in the offseason. That per Jeremy Fowler at ESPN. And this raises an interest. Like, we're already trying to figure it out. Again, over the course of the weekend, we'll probably start to get many, many, many reports about which coaches are safe and which coaches are not. Right now, we don't know. We don't know whether Kevin Stefanski is going to be back with the Browns or not. So my question to you, Caroline, is would the Browns be better off with Mike than they would be with Kevin?
Let me just say that while I love football season, I do love rumor season. So I'm very much
Mm.
so looking forward to all of this. To answer your question, why would anyone think so? Look, no disrespect to Mike McDaniel, but Kevin Stefanski is a two-time coach of the year for a reason. Kevin Stefanski is one of the more well-respected head coaches in the NFL for a reason. I think that we all have become very obsessed with what we saw from the Miami Dolphins offense from several seasons ago.
At the end of the day, Mike McDaniel has to answer the questions of why it hasn't been successful in Miami. And those are real questions that need to be answered by anybody that's looking to hire him. Because the fact is, he got there and he got his quarterback. He was part of an administration that decided that re-signing Tua to big money was the smart thing to do. He's had tremendous weapons on the offensive side. If you look across the board and ask yourself, what's the fatal flaw of the Miami Dolphins? That's a question that Mike McDaniel is going to have to answer. If he gets fired in Miami, I don't think he's going to, by the way. I think McDaniel's going to be back. I think Stefanski's going to be back, frankly. But if he does get fired, he's going to have to answer to whoever looks at hiring him next, not only why it didn't work, but why it didn't work considering the weapons that they had and the fact that he was okay with an investment in a quarterback that turns out to look like it was a bad investment to make, Caroline.
Yeah, that's why I am skeptical. If Browns fans all of a sudden feel like Mike McDaniel is the guy to get them to the promised land and dig them out of the sea of suck, maybe they want to look at Miami. And I understand the Dolphins, found a little something something toward the end of the season, went on that 4-game win streak. I understand that Quinn Ewers looks, to be much better than a 7th-round pick. But I don't think anyone's looking around at the Miami Dolphins and saying, you know what I want? That. The season that they just had. You know what I want to be? I want to be the Miami Dolphins. So I do understand that this is kind of a questionable offseason coaching search, that the coaching pool maybe feels a little bit uninspiring because there isn't that Ben Johnson, there isn't that Aaron Glenn, there isn't that, other than maybe Robert Saleh, there isn't that elite assistant coach that's going to take that next step into the head coaching ranks. I just don't think, if you're going to move on from Kevin Stefanski, that's fine. But is Mike McDaniel going to do more for you than Kevin Stefanski ever did? I can't believe that because I don't think that he's done that in Miami. I don't think that he's done what the Browns want to become for the Dolphins.
All right, so let's throw another name out there because former Browns quarterback Brian Hoyer, great dude, by the way, believes Brian Flores would be an ideal fit in Cleveland, saying the Browns need, quote, an alpha presence to lead the locker room. He said they need to find an alpha who's going to take the entire organization and make it his. Brian Flores is going to come and he's not going to take any you-know-what from anybody. Flores to Cleveland. Do you like that?
Look, I think I love Brian Flores, and I do think if he doesn't get a job this offseason, he will next. He's another one, in addition to Robert Saleh. That's that hot, sexy name, that coordinator name that's on the market. But I do think where Cleveland is right now, let's say if they run it back with Shedeur next year, I think that the Browns will want an offensive-minded head coach. If you look at the Browns, their issue isn't defense. That's actually been the one bright spot on this Browns team, in addition to some of the pop-off-the-page type of plays that we've seen from Shedeur down the stretch. But I think that if you're going to have a young quarterback, which is either Shedeur or the guy that the Browns eventually draft, if not this draft, then the draft after, you probably want a young offensive mind. I don't think that Brian Flores would be the perfect fit there in Cleveland.
I agree with you on the offensive mind portion of it, but even more importantly, I don't think Brian Flores should have any interest in the Browns job. I mean, if you're going to be a second-time head coach, look at what we saw from Ben Johnson. The first time everybody thought Ben Johnson was going to take a job, he flew around, he took all the meetings, and then he decided, you know what, I'm going to wait till I have a really good opportunity where I believe in the quarterback. And then all of the rumors came around about what they were going to do and where he was going to go last year. And what did he do? He went somewhere that he felt like he could win because they had a quarterback in place he really liked. If I'm Brian Flores, I realize that the chances I'm going to get a third shot as the head coach are non-existent. So I'm not going anywhere where I don't have a path to or a complete understanding of who my quarterback is. If I don't have a clear cut, this is the way we're going to get there, I'm not taking my second opportunity, hoping it works out with the Browns, who historically have never really worked out, not knowing exactly what the quarterback situation looks like moving forward, which leads us to Shedeur, because certainly the Browns take on the Bengals this week, and Joe Burrow was asked about Shedeur Sanders. His quote, he's certainly been under more of a microscope than any other fifth-round pick has ever been in the history of football, and every clip that I see seems to be handling it well. Do we believe that Shedeur is going to be the starting quarterback for the Browns in week 1 next year?
If I had to put my money on yes or no, I would say yes. Shedeur Sanders is their starting quarterback next year because the Browns have so many other positions of need. They need pass catchers. They need to bolster up the offensive line. They have positions of need defensively. At this point, instead of the Browns trying to race for a quarterback and trying to scramble and find their quarterback that they think might be the guy, why don't you just go ahead and address the best player available? Because when you look at this upcoming draft, you're going to have Caleb Downs, the best defensive player in all of college football. You have Jeremiah Love at the running back position, Arvell Reese from Ohio State. And I don't think that the Browns are in a position right now to swing for a quarterback. Now, with that being said, if the Browns believe that Fernando Mendoza will be the savior for their organization, Dante Moore will be the savior for their organization, then you have to do whatever it takes to take that guy. Screw whatever you have in that quarterback room. If you think that the savior and the guy for your organization moving forward is in this draft, you have to do whatever it takes to draft them. I just think the best thing, if I ran the Browns organization, I would run it back with Shedeur Sanders, and I would continue to supplement the quarterback position with other great players at different positions.
Yeah, I think the Browns have no choice but to do that. Because to your point, a few years ago, everybody said you have to find a way. If you believe in Caleb or Jaden or Drake, and I talked to so many people when we were prepping for our Yahoo draft shows that we were doing about that very thing. And teams called constantly. Teams offered a king's ransom to move up into the top 3, and every one of those teams said no. If you look at the draft right now, according to Tankathon, as we sit going into week 18 right now, the Browns would have the 6th pick in the draft. The Raiders have the 1st pick in the draft. I don't believe there's anything you can offer the Raiders that will get them off of a quarterback. The 3rd pick belongs to the New York Jets. I don't believe there's anything you can offer the Jets that will get them out of a quarterback. In fact, you'd have to outbid the Jets, who have more ammunition they can use in the draft right now, to get to that number 2 spot. I just don't think it's going to happen. If Dante Moore comes out, we don't even know if he will. If Dante Moore comes out, there might be 2 quarterbacks with a true first-round grade this year. It's a weird year at quarterback. And then take a look at the 2026 free agent class at the quarterback position. Daniel Jones, who I think will end up a Colt again. After that, it's Russell Wilson, Marcus Mariota, Zach Wilson, Tyrod Taylor, Kenny Pickett. If you might be the one team that you might believe in Malik Willis. Maybe he's the one that is attainable. There's going to be a bidding war for Malik Willis this year because there are no other options out there. So I think the Browns are going to go into next summer and realize that just because of where they sit in the draft and because of what free agency looked like at the quarterback position, they have no choice but to have a quarterback competition between Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. He's still going to be on the roster.
Oh.
He still counts a ton of money. That's going to be next summer is going to be which guy wins the starting quarterback job. And if the Browns can't figure it out, if it turns out to be a bad season, the good news is right now as we sit today, the next year's draft class looks like it's deeper and better at quarterback. Unfortunately, I would also remind Browns fans that's exactly what we were saying right now, a year ago right now, about this draft class. So it's a lose-lose situation. I think Shedeur is going to get the chance to start, but I don't think it's because Shedeur has done anything incredible. It's just where they are. Myles Garrett going to break the sack record week 18. He's got to get the sack record. This is the last chance. Do you think he can get it?
I do think that he can, right? It just feels like there's been too much build up to this. It feels like this carrot has been dangling in front of his face and all of our faces for the last several weeks. So yes, can he get it? 100%. We're talking about Myles Garrett here who needs to get 1 sack. Yes, he can. But what I don't want to happen, Fitz, is that if he does, that all of a sudden we're saying, oh, doesn't count. Because it happened in week 18, and week 18 is a new addition in the NFL over the last 5 years, and that record doesn't count. It's going to be so exhausting if we do that for every single record that gets broken in the NFL. And inevitably, they will. We'll have to put an asterisk next to every receiver that breaks the single season receiving yard record. We're going to have to do that for every running back who breaks every rushing record from here on out. Look, it's a different NFL. I understand that, but let's just embrace greatness and historic and legendary greatness when we get it. That's what we're getting from Myles Garrett.
Yeah, 100%. And like the asterisk conversation is so worn out to me, just like it is every time we
Exhausting.
talk about the fact that Favre laid down for Strahan sack. I really don't care. What's going to be curious to me is the last few weeks, teams have been so worried about dumping it out. Quarterbacks don't want to be in the history books. I genuinely wonder if he's going to get it. And I think it's crazy. I do think he's right. Last week, it felt at times like the Steelers were more worried about not giving up that sack than they were about actually winning a football game. So my hope is that Myles Garrett gets it because I want the history books to remember a great season, but I don't feel great about it going into that game, especially knowing that Burrow doesn't want to be that one.